Hello, Manhwa lovers. I hope you're all having an amazing day. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on the last video and everyone who left a like. A special shout out to DarkGamer3492 for once again being the first to comment and always engaging with my videos. Now, we see the girls enjoying a meal together. They also had a fun day out in the city, visiting an arcade and playing for a while. Chloe and Hannah had company, something Ju particularly noticed, especially considering Hannah's intentions to talk to Amo. She finally gathered the courage to start a conversation, but their professor, Yelena, interrupted to take a picture. Some of the club girls volunteered to be the photographers. In my opinion, Hannah and Yelena looked absolutely lovely. The girls taking the photos knew about Yelena's love for pictures, thinking she posted them online whenever she was bored. Even though Yelena, embarrassed, insisted that she only did it in those moments, she did admit that whenever she was with Hannah, she gained more followers. This left Hannah stunned, adding a bit of humor to Yelena's otherwise simple life. Of course, the other girls also wanted to take photos with Yelena since she was quite popular, and doing so helped them gain followers too. Meanwhile, John observed that although Hannah was being teased, Emo found joy in other things. Deep down, he knew they were all doing well. Later, while some of the girls were asleep and others were watching TV, Rui, feeling bored and unsure of what to do, puzzled Chloe and Gina. They knew she had been gaming since she arrived, yet now she seemed uninterested. Rui then suggested going to a karaoke bar to sing, but Chloe refused, saying the songs had high notes she couldn't reach easily. However, when she asked Amo if they wanted to hear her sing, both Yelena and Amo eagerly said yes, despite Chloe's reluctance. As Hannah observed Amo, uncertain about what to do, Roy surprised her by suggesting they go to karaoke. Hannah took it lightly, remembering that it was because of Rui that the guys had ended up going to the supermarket. At that moment, another girl placed a bottle on the table, creating an air of suspense among them. She wanted to have an honest conversation with everyone and liven up the party. However, Chloe knew that the girl wouldn't speak openly unless she had a little courage. In her mind, she thought it was the first time they had their professor with them, and it would be great to have a Q&A session. Yelena agreed with the idea, but Ruby mentioned she wouldn't be able to drink too much without some snacks. Luckily, the girl had already prepared for that. There were snacks in Emmy's bag. Since Ami had lost a game earlier, she had gone to the supermarket to buy more snacks, so they started their girls-only party without the guys. They took turns asking each other questions until someone asked Yelena what she thought of their performance. She responded that it was amazing, initially expecting it to be just an ordinary club. However, after watching them act, she saw something truly professional. Nowadays, theater isn't as widely appreciated, and university clubs have declined in quality, which affects performances. She was impressed by how much effort they put into their show in just one day. More importantly, she noticed how well the group worked together. She praised their hard work, especially the first-year lead actors, who performed exceptionally. She also noted that their seniors had guided them in the right direction. Upon hearing this, Ano nodded in agreement and thanked everyone for being so kind to her. Yelena continued giving her approval, emphasizing that actors should appreciate the hard work of the staff. Of course, all the girls felt the same as Amelie, but especially Yelena. She asked the general director if she had a hard time since managing people is never easy. Getting them to listen is even harder. Normally, if things don't go well, people will curse internally, holding in their frustration or even voicing it. Even when things go smoothly, there's always a comment about it. Since it's a position of responsibility, there were surely moments when she doubted herself, worried about making the wrong choice, and hoped she wouldn't. But cutting to the chase, Yelena's conclusion was that the girls had done an excellent job. She also found it delightful that they genuinely enjoyed performing and hoped they would continue putting on great plays in the future. She then apologized for rambling so much. Meanwhile, Amo was watching Hannah, and Yelena hoped that after graduating, Hannah would come back to visit, something she was sure she would do. At that moment, Emmy arrived, feeling a bit down because she had planned to cook something for everyone. Later, they all enjoyed Emmy's delicious meal, feasting together. That night, Hannah was seen alone, as if waiting for someone. Eventually, Emily arrived by her side, both of them ready. Though before that, because of the party, Amo had offered to go to the store to get some milk. As she left the room, she ran into Hannah, which felt rather unusual. Hannah wanted to know where Emily was going, and she replied that she was just heading to the store and wouldn't be long. At that moment, Hannah asked if they could talk for a moment, leaving Amo frozen since she was supposed to get the milk. With an aura that felt slightly intimidating, Hannah insisted on taking a bit of her precious time, but Amo kept saying she had to go. This led to Hannah cornering her. Some passing girls witnessed the scene but chose not to intervene. Eventually, both girls calmed down, But by coincidence, Hannah ended up waiting for her outside, leaving Amo in silence. Returning to the present, the two girls sat down to talk. Both Hannah and Amo felt uncomfortable, as neither knew what to say. Hannah asked how Amo was enjoying the outing, and she admitted she was having fun, which made Hannah happy. After that, Hannah complimented her acting, praising her performance. Amo nodded in acknowledgement, but her expression remained sad. Sensing this, Hannah sincerely apologized, which hit Amo hard. Amo stood up and asked why she was saying all this now, thinking Hannah was forcing herself to apologize. Though Hannah denied it, Amo couldn't understand why she had waited until now to say something. Her apologies felt confusing. Amo wasn't sure if Hannah was saying them because she truly meant it or because she thought she hadn't done a good job. It seemed like Hannah believed Amo wouldn't perform well, and that was the reason behind her apologies. Hannah wasn't sure what to say, realizing she had made a mistake in her thinking. Struggling to find the right words, she explained that everything she had said and done was a result of the stress she had been under. She didn't know how to make Amo forgive her. Hannah admitted that it was just an excuse. She had acted thoughtlessly and apologized again. She acknowledged that she had been making excuses and didn't even understand why she had behaved that way, especially after seeing Amo practice with Chloe. It made her wonder why she hadn't supported her in the same way before. Now that Hannah recognized how talented everyone was, she understood that if they were having fun, they would be okay. She also admitted that she had pushed Amo too hard. She had been blinded by her own ego, failing to see what was happening around her. Now she deeply regretted her actions. She felt as if apologizing now was almost mocking Amo's feelings. Blaming her foolish pride again seemed absurd, yet in her mind, it still felt like a string of excuses. She listened as Amo described how, during the play, they had moved in perfect sync, and how much she enjoyed that feeling. Hannah knew that was exactly what Amo had wanted to hear from her before, but her foolish pride had only caused harm. She finally opened up, sincerely regretting her actions. At that moment, she understood that Amo might see this apology as something just to make herself feel better. Even so, Hannah apologized once more for her selfish behavior. Realizing that if Amo left, she would leave too, Hannah wasn't worried about Amo telling the others because she genuinely meant what she said. Hearing this, Amo felt bewildered. In the past, when Hannah treated her that way, she always wondered why. Even though she resented and hated what Hannah had done to her, a part of her still hoped that one day they could perform together in a play and have fun like before. That hope hadn't faded. Hannah remembered how she used to help Amo with her scripts, offering positive feedback to keep the plot concise, and how well they worked together. She realized she had genuinely enjoyed being by her side. In the present, Hannah stood up and hugged Amo, apologizing sincerely for her mistakes and expressing her desire to be forgiven. Amo, though still curious about Hannah's true motives, couldn't stop her tears. Despite everything, she still admired Hannah. Deeply regretful, Hannah continued apologizing over and over. She now despised the state of their relationship but had no idea how to repair it, or even if she deserved to. Meanwhile, John was lost in thought, wanting to return to his room but somehow still lingering. Back to the girls, Amo eventually turned to leave without saying another word. Hannah felt a deep sadness, but Amo suddenly stopped to add something. Knowing Hannah's complicated temperament, she wondered if anyone else would be able to handle it. She warned Hannah that if she ever tried to hurt her again, she wouldn't hesitate to punch her hard in the stomach. With that, Amo ran off, leaving Hannah speechless. Meanwhile, in the hallway, John stepped out of his room. Earlier, he had brought some snacks, only to be cornered by the girls, who wouldn't let him leave. Just as he finally managed to escape, he noticed Amo. She had been crying, though she tried to hide it. He asked her where she had been, and Amo told him she had gone to talk to Hannah. As Amo sat down beside him, John decided to stay with her for a while. John knew that stepping into this situation at the wrong moment could lead to chaos, especially if the girls saw Amo crying. However, Amo wanted to know if he remembered the promise Hannah had made to her. John did remember, and now Hannah had finally kept her word. Amo wondered when she would, because when she heard it, her mind went blank, and she felt angry. John could imagine why. Amo then explained that she even warned Hannah that if she did it again, she would punch her in the stomach. This made John picture Amo as a bit of a bully, which amused him. Amo then asked if he thought she had done the right thing by getting angry. For John, it was completely understandable. He assumed she didn't like the way Hannah had treated her. But for Amo, the real issue was that Hannah hadn't apologized until she was forced to. Now, she didn't know what to do or if they could ever go back to how things were. John asked Amo if she wanted to forgive Hannah, to which she hesitated before responding with a 50-50. This made John laugh. He found it incredible. Even though he didn't fully understand the situation, he could tell that Hannah had made a huge mistake. Despite Hannah's late apology, Amo still wanted to forgive her. She felt guilty for crying over it. John reassured her, saying he found that really admirable. If he were in her place, he wouldn't even want to see Hannah's face again. Amo admitted she would do the same, but only with someone she didn't care about. With Hannah, it was different. Even though she felt betrayed and hated her more than anything, she still wished they could get along like they used to. John admired Amo's way of thinking even more and made sure to tell her. He then said he should probably go rest, and Amo nodded. However, she now wondered if Hannah was thinking the same thing. What if she wasn't? John figured she was probably crying, just like Amelie. Amo hoped that was the case. She apologized to John for showing this darker side of herself. She had just had some very troubling thoughts, and honestly didn't know what to do or how to fix things. Now, as Amo stepped into her room, John reflected on the night. Meanwhile, Hannah sat alone, lost in sadness, when suddenly John appeared. Surprised, she quickly wiped away her tears and said nothing. But John insisted she come with him. He was there to listen. After a brief hesitation, Hannah finally stood up and walked toward him. John asked how it went. Hannah thought she had been foolish. She felt as though she was about to cry. And John noticed, because she already was. Even though Hannah felt terrible, all she could manage to say was that she was sorry. John noticed that, in the end, she was the kind of girl who became weak when it came to speaking her mind. Hannah admitted she was even angry at herself. After all, who wouldn't be frustrated hearing just that? John understood how she felt, thinking it was foolish for her to cry over something she herself had messed up. Besides, she didn't even know what to expect anymore. Hannah wondered why she was like this and called herself useless. Since it was getting cold, they decided to go inside. Upon entering the room, Hannah lay down, completely drained in every sense. John found it surprising that she had a room all to herself, which only made him more curious. Although he figured John was wondering about what had happened between her and Amo, his suspicions were confirmed. Hannah considered telling him, but John refused. There was no point in talking about it now. Everything was done and nothing would change. However, for Hannah, it wasn't over. She knew she had apologized, but now it was up to Amo to decide whether to accept it or not. John didn't plan on listening any further. He didn't want to judge anything. First, the two of them needed to settle things on their own. Then one day they could come back together, hand in hand, and tell him about it. Because of this, John told Hannah to take a shower and stop crying while he went to grab something to eat. But Hannah didn't want to be alone and asked him to stay. John was tempted. In the bathtub, Hannah was completely downcast. John noticed and asked if she expected Amo to accept her apology. Hannah wasn't sure. In her mind, things would have been easier if they just kept hating each other like before. Even if Amo forgave her, they couldn't go back to how they used to be. To John, it sounded like Hannah was just making excuses for Amo not to accept her apology. Deep down, Hannah admitted that if she were in Amo's place, she wouldn't accept the apology either. She didn't know what to do. John then asked what she thought Amo would do. He could already picture what she was thinking. He wished Hannah would just confront the situation instead of running from it. He reminded her that she couldn't expect an immediate answer and that she didn't have to go through this alone. Everything would be fine. At that moment, Hannah hugged him. John continued, saying that even though she was afraid of Amo rejecting her apology, she still wanted her to accept it. This was the first time she had ever apologized. She was used to everyone else doing it first. John asked if she truly wanted to get along with Amo again, and Hannah nodded. He believed they could be friends again, that they could have a second season, a fresh start, and that this time things could be better. Hannah believed him. She kissed John, but then suddenly wanted to leave. She also brought up Amo's last words about punching her, which made John laugh. He found it hilarious, imagining how a punch from Amo would probably send her straight to the ground. Because of that, Hannah asked John to leave, as she suddenly had the urge to pray before going to church. John could tell she was feeling much better now. She even gave him a warm smile. They continued with their prayers, which lasted an entire chapter. Later, as John was getting dressed, Hannah whispered a thank you. He didn't think he had done anything special, but Hannah was grateful for the way he had simply been there for her. Even though she wasn't at her best, he accepted her anyway, and that meant a lot. Being with him and having someone listen to her comforted her in ways she couldn't fully express. John teased her, pretending he hadn't heard, and asked her to say it again. Though proud, Hannah repeated it. Still, John insisted he hadn't done anything remarkable. Hannah, however, knew otherwise. He had listened, stayed by her side, and offered her kindness when she needed it most. Even so, John kept downplaying his role. He was happy to see that she felt better, but it was time for him to go. Hannah didn't want him to leave and suggested they keep praying until morning. Even if it meant drinking water just to stay awake, she knew John still had the energy for it. So, they continued their prayers for another chapter. By the end, Hannah was completely exhausted while John was getting ready to leave. He turned off the light, whispered a gentle goodnight, and told her not to worry too much. Hannah simply listened, feeling at peace. The next morning, Yelena was the first to leave. She had truly enjoyed waiting for the classes to start again in the same way as before and asked them to let the others know. Chloe was especially grateful that Yelena had joined them, and Hannah planned to stay in touch once they arrived. Even the teacher knew how much both of them had enjoyed the experience. With that, Yelena drove off in her car. Hannah suggested to Chloe that they go inside and rest while waiting for the bus, to which she agreed. She also reminded everyone to make sure they had everything ready before boarding. John was considering going to the store and also needed to use the restroom, but just as he was about to leave, Emma arrived and hit him, rushing him to get on the bus. In response, John playfully bumped her with his hip and teased her, demanding that she give him back his candy. At that moment, Amo arrived, and John immediately noticed that she had slept well. Indeed, Amo had enjoyed a peaceful rest. John asked her to get on the bus first since he still needed to reclaim his candy, which Amo agreed to. That made John happy. While Hannah waited, the girls expressed their gratitude for the wonderful trip, but she seemed lost in thought. As she boarded the bus, Amo noticed that Hannah was sitting alone. While Hannah looked away, she heard footsteps approaching. Turning her head, she saw that it was John, still teasing Emma about his candy. Emma asked for some time and offered to take him out for food later in exchange. However, John then noticed Amo sitting next to Hannah, which surprised not only him but also others, like Emmy, who found it unusual for Amo to stay by Hannah's side. Even though Emma couldn't see what was happening, John and Amy walked quietly alongside her, aware that Amo would remain next to Hannah. Hannah accepted it without saying a word, and it was clear that Amo was being kind, though she said nothing. Chloe and Gina also noticed the situation. While Chloe didn't realize they had reconciled, Gina signaled her to stay quiet, as it wasn't the right time yet. But one thing was certain, they were taking the first step. When they arrived, some of the boys were getting ready to leave, but took a moment to thank Leon for his efforts. Emmy was heading home to get some rest and said her goodbyes, wishing John a safe trip. From a distance, John spotted Hannah with her friends. She smiled at him and told him to take care, to which he nodded. Chloe was excited for Amo, recognizing that taking that step must have been difficult and congratulating her. However, Amo brushed it off as nothing. Gina and Rui found Amo to say goodbye and wished her a safe trip. Emily also said farewell to Chloe, anticipating they'd see each other again in class. John then approached Chloe and asked if she was heading home, which startled her. Shyly, she admitted that she was. She quickly realized he had been waiting for her since they were going in the same direction, which made her blush. As they walked, they talked about how great the trip had been and how amusing it was to see how much people enjoyed drinking. Now that they were heading home, something felt different. It had been a long time since they had last walked together like this. Chloe was curious about John's plans for the rest of the day. He answered that he would take a shower, go out for a meal, and then finally rest. He then asked what the vice president would be doing, which made Chloe blush. She repeated the question but using her own name instead, and embarrassed, admitted that she also planned to shower and then eat. John understood what she meant. Sensing her nervousness, Chloe hesitantly suggested they go out for a meal, but she couldn't finish her sentence. In her mind, she knew she could go through with it, especially since they had already planned to eat together the day before but never did. This was her chance. However, John beat her to it and invited her instead, taking her by surprise. Deep down, the gesture warmed her heart in a way she couldn't describe. Though John assured her he would understand if she didn't want to, Chloe was flustered at the idea of it just being the two of them. Still, she shyly accepted the invitation, and so they agreed to meet a little later.